Go through some of the inyanim that are negayah for Rosh Hashana specifically. We'll start with Erev Rosh Hashana, and we'll move on to the night of Rosh Hashana. And in the mitzvah Hashem, the next couple of days, we'll try to get through as much as we can of the Seder Dvarim of Rosh Hashana, Seis Tshuva and Yom Kippurim, Be'ez Hashem Haba Aleinu L'Tova. It's just very, very important to understand halachas. We always say this every year, that wouldn't it be a shame on Rosh Hashana itself for a person to be either not being mekayim a halacha that he's meant to, or being over in a halacha, or doing chas v'shalom an aveira on the day that he's meant to be judged. The day of judgment is a day that at any moment a person could be judged. In fact, now Rizal brings down, sometimes we would like to know, when exactly are we judged? When is the moment that we are judged? It would be great at that moment, like to be doing the right thing, not to be doing chas v'shalom the wrong thing. So the Rizal brings down that if there's a time that a person on Rosh Hashana, and sometimes you feel this, if there's a time on Rosh Hashana that a person feels he's about to cry, either he cries, or he gets choked up, or he feels that he's about to cry. That moment, that exact moment, says the Rizal, is the precise moment in Shamayim that they're looking at you and they're scrutinizing your deeds, your year, and what will be in the year to come. So that's a scary time. So that means if you get to that moment, chaparayin and daven for whatever you can. Because it's a moment of Eis Lasos, it's Eis Rotzen. It's a tremendous, tremendous time. So that is the idea over there of Rosh Hashana. So that's why it's important for us to know the halachas and what to do, so that when it comes to the day of Rosh Hashana, we actually are familiar with some of the halachas. So let's start number one. There's a Torah in Tov Kuf Pei Aleph, where the Torah brings down a yesod of fasting on Erev Rosh Hashana. Right? Now this is quite a new concept to some people that haven't been here last year or the year before. This is the minig of yeshiva over here, that we do this every single year. That the minig of Ashkenazim is to fast on Erev Rosh Hashana. It's a half-day fast until Chatzos. The reason for that is twofold. Number one, Erev Rosh Hashana is the very last day of the year, and therefore Chazal tell us that if a person does tshuva on the last day of the year, it's ki'ilu who did tshuva the whole year, which is an amazing opportunity. So that's the reason number one why we fast. Fasting always, as we know, the Mishnah Berurah brings it down in Hilchos Tainis, is not specifically just not to eat, but it's rather to reflect upon where we're holding and what we could be doing better. And therefore we fast on Erev Rosh Hashana to try and invoke that idea of where we're holding and what we could be doing better in that case. The other thing is the Torah brings down Betzim It's a Medrash that a person gets a kapara for a third of his aveiros when he fasts on Erev Rosh Hashana. Remember, it's a half-day fast until Chatzos. We daven in yeshiva, as far as I remember, we daven mincha gedola, and therefore you can break the fast after that. You can better break it after Chatzos, but many people have the minig to wait another half an hour, daven mincha, and continue with that. But just think about it. Think about the good deal you're getting. A third of all aveiros wiped out just for fasting on Erev Rosh Hashana. Now again, the slichas on Erev Rosh Hashana is the longest slichas that we have. We here generally do it by night. Those that do it by day, people dafka drink before that specifically, because it's before daytime in that case. But al kaponim, the longest slichas is specifically, once again, Erev Rosh Hashana, because it's the last day of the year. And therefore we chaparayim with as much slicha b'kapara tshuva that we can, because it is after all the last day of the year, so we chaparayim with that. That is number one. Number two, the minig on Erev Rosh Hashana, the Shlach Kodesh brings down, is to do Hataras Nedarim. The reason why we do Hataras Nedarim on Erev Rosh Hashana, says the Rosh Yosef, is specifically because we don't want a person to enter the new year with a neder or a shavua. Some hold that the ovain, the aveira of nedarim, right? A person, if he's not makayim the nedarim that he made, could be ma'akiv his tefillahs on Rosh Hashana. When a person is davening, is saying, I want this, that, and the other, your word doesn't mean much if you say things and you yourself don't keep to them. Which is why, specifically on Erev Rosh Hashana, after davening, after Shacharis to Olam or Familia, we gather together, 3 people sitting down, 1 person standing, and we do what's called the Hataras Nedarim. The text is in every Slichas, is in every Siddur, and specifically the reason is we want to start the new year as a fresh page, no Nedarim, no pledges, and anything like that. Like the Orach Chaim HaKodesh says in Parashat B'chukoisai, when he has over there the 42 pshatim, if I'm not mistaken, the 5th parish over there in the Orach Chaim HaKodesh out of 42 is, before you start taking upon chumras, make sure you keep me'ig hadin. And therefore, when we come into the new year, we start Rosh Hashana at a time where we're going to make sure that we're asking the Rabbi Shalom, we're not taking on chumras, we're not taking on extras, we just want to keep the basics, and we want to do that in that case, and that's why it's important. The Shach, by the way, ala Torah, in Parashas Matos, brings down a remez to this. He says, if you look at the soif tevis, that means the end letter of the following words. Lo yachel devoroi kachol. The end letters of that is elul, which is why specifically we have to be careful that our mouths and what comes out of our mouth is something that is important and it means things to us as well. Let's move on now to the night of Rosh Hashana. We have Erev Rosh Hashana. Let's move on to the night of Rosh Hashana. So there's a shaila in the Gemara in Horiyas Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, and the shaila is like this: Simoni milsehi or lav milsehi, which means when I do a simon at the beginning of the year, does that affect the rest of the year? All of us are familiar with the famous Yerushalmi, where the Yerushalmi brings down that a person should not sleep on Rosh Hashana. The reason being that if a person does something on Rosh Hashana, it can affect his entire year, and therefore, according to the Yerushalmi, if a person sleeps on Rosh Hashana, he will have a sleepy year, right? Which is brought down la halacha as well. Person should be careful not to sleep on Rosh Hashana. Someone will make it on the second day. Of course, if a person will be Isaac in all sorts of things that he shouldn't be Isaac in, speaking Lashon Hara, Dvarim B'Teilim, whatever it may be, could be it's better to go to sleep anyway. Resting your head on the stender on a table is not called going to sleep anyway, so that's okay. But the shayla in the Gemara is, when I do something on the beginning of the year, Simoni milsi or lav milsa. When I do something, does it affect the rest of the year? Lemaisa we paskin la halacha lemaisa shitas habaya that simon is a milsahi. That means that what we do in the beginning of the year does affect the rest of the year, which is why Klal Yisrael have a minig to have simonim on the night of Rosh Hashanah. Some people have it both nights, different minhagim. The reason why people have it both nights because it says rogil. The person should be habitual to always do these things. They made it to do it twice. Al Kapon in the Mateh Ephraim brings down that we have the simonim, even though there are various minhagim, but the Mateh Ephraim, and that's the min that we follow over here in Yeshiva, is we eat the simonim after hamoitzi. That means we'll make kiddush, we'll wash hamoitzi, and then we will have all the simonim over there. I'm not going to go now into the different shaylas because there are different ways of making the simonim, and some of the simonim are made in a way that there's a suffix if it requires its own bracha rishona. Believe it or not, there are things that you eat in the middle of a meal that require its own bracha rishona, even if I washed. That means people think that if I washed, I don't have to make a bracha rishona on anything anymore because I washed. The answer is no. Only something as Lashon Chazal, the Gemara brachas, malafis as a pas, goes together with bread. There are certain things of the simonim that not necessarily go together with bread, and therefore it's at least a suffix if a person requires a bracha. That's why people have a minhag, I'm not sure if you've ever seen this before, that they'll take a piece of banana, for example, or they'll take a piece of popcorn, which is vaday chayiv a bracha, take a piece of popcorn in the middle of a meal, of course you make a hadam on that. And they'll make a hadam on the piece of popcorn, and this all there'll be yaitza the simonim during the meal that could be a shayla of requiring its own bracha rishona even after washing. So the general halacha is, by the way, also by the yirotzen that we make, for example, the yirotzen you make after putting the bread in the honey, you'll make only after eating, after swallowing it. By the way, people should be makbid stamazoi. Whenever you make hamoitzi and you eat, don't talk while the bread is in your mouth. You have to swallow it and then start talking in order for the bracha to be chal in that case. Now we know the famous minig, Maril brings it down, and that is the apple in the honey. It's a mafurish, a song, and we all like to makayim this. But there is a problem. What's the problem? The problem is we have halacha, everybody here knows in Simon Reish Yud Aleph, we talked about it last year in Tu B'Shvat, we speak about it every year, a little bit now by Rosh Hashana as well, called Kedimas HaBrachas. There's halacha Kedimas HaBrachas that means that when I have things in front of me, there's a Kedima. There are certain things that there's a preference that I should make the bracha on, which means if I'm making a ha'etz, what should I make the ha'etz on? I have in front of me an apple, but I also have in front of me a Shivas Aminim, which we all have on the night of Rosh Hashanah, because if, for example, you're going to have dates there for sure, right? Figs is a different shayla, because whether a person should check them, whether it's even shayla to check them for the bugs, is a different shayla, but dates is one of the simonim, and therefore that's why a person has dates, that's Shivas Aminim. So I have apple in front of me, and I have the Shivas Aminim, so the general din is, we all know, Kedimas HaBrachas tells us, in Birchas Seim Shabbos, the Gemara in Brachas Lemaisa, that if I have the same bracha, Shivas Aminim always wins. So if I have ha'etz that I'm about to make, which I'm going to do on Rosh Hashanah, I'm going to make ha'etz, do I make it on the apple and dip it in the honey, which is what I want to do first. The kids want to get up on the chair, and they want to sing a song, and they want to talk about it, and then afterwards we'll do everything else, or do I make it on Shivas Hamini, because that's really the halacha. So Reb Shlomo Zalman brings, and this is brought down, by the way, you can look this up, in the Machzor Mefurish, in the Hagdama to the Machzor Mefurish, so he brings down that he asked Reb Shlomo Zalman Orbach this shayla, and Reb Shlomo Zalman said two things. Number one, he said, Kedimas HaBrachas means I want to have both of them, The shayla is which one I want to do, which I'll make a bracha on. Zuk Shlomo Zalman, if you want to have the apple first, because that's the seder how you do things, that's what the kids know, that's what they want to do, and then they're going to run off, and who knows if they're going to be there for us to simonim. So maybe there's a reason that I'm doing the apple first. Then Rabbi Shlomo Zalman said you could be mekel and make the bracha on the apple, even though you've got shiva saminim. The other eitzah, which is probably the most preferred one, but sometimes could be difficult, especially in yeshiva when we're dealing with a lot of people bringing things in the kitchen, at the kitchen, whatever. So again, technical reasons could stop this, but theoretically, another pshat could be we bring the shiva saminim in afterwards. In other words, don't have it on the table b'shas the bracha, make the eitz on the apple, no shiva saminim on the table, then it's okay, even though you know it's going to come in for the kitchen. Now, of course, what you could simply do is make the eitz on the shiva saminim, right? On the pomegranate, on the date. Obviously, you could do that, and then you're okay, and do the apple and the honey afterwards. By the way, the apple and the honey is an interesting shaila. All of us know that we make our eitz on the apple and the honey, but it's actually not so poshut. Simply because there are those that say you should actually make a bracha on the honey and not on the apple, because the ikar why you're dipping the apple in the honey is really for the honey, it's for the sweetness. So maybe the ikar is the honey. But according we paskin that the ikar is the apple, and therefore since the ikar is the apple, the toffel is the honey. We make a bracha on the ikar, kol sheyesh boy, and therefore the ma'isa we make a bracha eitz on the apple, and you don't have to worry about anything else. By the way, people ask two things. What is the point of all these simonim? And let's say I don't want to eat them. There's certain things on the table that I don't like these things. Maybe he doesn't like fish. Maybe he doesn't want the head of the fish. Maybe he doesn't like dates. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want it. Whatever it is, he doesn't want to have. Can I be yotza without it? So the ma'aseh the Kaf HaChaim brings down, the ikar is really to see it, and you can even make the yirotzon according to that. Even if you're actually not eating it, the ikar is to see it. The olim should know as well. The Mishnah Berurah brings it down from the Heilige Shlar Kodesh that he says that a person should know that it's not just a stomach thing. You take it, you make a bracha, you make a eitz, you make a yirotzon, whatever it is, and go weiter. The Mishnah Berurah says, the Chofetz Chaim, it's not Chassidus Shemaises, the Mishnah Berurah brings down, yesterday's Yotzeit, the Mishnah Berurah brings down that a person is meant to be maharo tshuva at the times when he's saying the yirotzon. It's a serious thing, it's a serious situation. A person is meant to be maharo tshuva, so steht in the Chofetz Chaim, when he does the yirotzons over there. But again, according to the Kaf HaChaim, seeing it, you can be yotza in that case over there, and you make it according to the Mishnah Berurah, according to the Matar Ephraim, you make it with the Shem Hashem over there. Now there's a big shaila in the Achronim if we eat simonim that are not mufurish in the Gemara, right? There's a lot of minhagim. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch famously brings down the carrot that many have, the Rosh Hashana. There's many different ones. There's the head of the sheep or the ram, again that's not brought down in the Gemara but is brought down in the Torah. There's, for example, the Torah brings down to eat a lung on the night of Rosh Hashana. It's a scholar for Re'iyah. It's not brought down in Shulchan Aruch. Torah brings it down. There's an Inyan that the Torah, again, this is the Torah, brings down that Rishon, that you can eat an esrog, you should eat esrogim on the night of Rosh Hashana, right? Why? Because Adam HaRishon, the first chet HaRishon was pashtos, according to many, was the esrog tree, and therefore we want to be masakin over there. There are those that say we could do any minhagim, any simonim that you have, even if it's not mefurish in the Gemara, then it's absolutely fine. Again, the Yavitz brings down the ikar is not what you're eating, the ikar is what you're saying over there, and it's very important, like the Shlar Kodesh brings down, to make sure a person's maharid tshuva. One last thing for today, and that is the avoidance of eating certain foods. For example, the Ramah brings down the minig that many people have is to be careful not to eat nuts on Rosh Hashana. Many different reasons. The Ramah brings down that egois is gematria chet, and therefore we want to have nothing to do with it. We want to distance ourselves as much as we can from any shaykhs to chet over there. There's a maril that says another reason, and that is because the saliva, the nuts sometimes can increase saliva during davening, which can cause a person not to concentrate during davening the way he should. Now the nafkamina between these two reasons is very simple. If the reason is because of saliva, then it's only b'shas davening. After davening, during the Suda, for example, for sure on the second day, there should be no problem. But if the reason is because of egos, because of nut, because of gachet, then a mela will be negeya for the entire Rosh Hashanah in that case. Almonds, there are those that are makel to have almonds on Rosh Hashanah, even though a lot hold that according to the second reason, the saliva still increases. It's a problem over there. Peanuts, according to most poskim, are not included. By the way, this is a common shaila that I receive almost every year from a newly married guy that says, what do I do right? Or for example, he'll tell me the next day that, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. My wife made a whole dessert, right, with all nuts and everything on it. I went crazy with us. And how could you do this? Are you mishiga? There's an Indian not to eat nuts and everything. So I said to him, the whole zach is an Indian to remember not to chait. But remember, chait is also gematria chait. So if you do a chait on Rosh Hashana, that's for sure gematria chait, and therefore a person has to be careful. So avad is minhagim, but avad is shalom bayis and benodam chaveiroi, and being careful also is a very important thing for a person to remember. By the way, if it's cooked into things and you can't even recognize it, for example, some that have almond flour or nut flour or nuts and whatever, it's mixed into a cake, it's for sure okay. There's nothing to worry about. There are different minhagim. Some people don't have pickles in vinegar. Some people don't have chrein or strong mustard. Everyone according to their minhagim about what should they avoid. There's a shaila that Vilna Gaon, for example, says not to eat grapes on Rosh Hashana. So Nachanami, the Kaf HaChaim brings down the Vilna Gaon. He says the Vilna Gaon was talking about black grapes, not green grapes, right? Some want to say maybe even raisins. There are many minhagim. I'm not here to tell people what they should be noyig, but everyone should know their minig, the minig of having a round challah, because again, life is round and continues and continues. The whole world, time and minhagim brings down, should recognize the Rabbeinu Shalom. It's another reason for the round challahs. But let's remember, Rabbi, so we'll end with this, that the simanim are all gavaldige zachen, but at the end of the day, the ikar siman that we're doing is how we act. The Kaf HaChaim and others bring down how careful a person has to be on the day of Rosh Hashana. It's 2 days for a person to be not makpid. If someone takes your seat, someone takes your machsa, someone, whatever it is, right, you think they're pointing to you to open up the Aron HaKodesh to psicha, right, you go over there and you see that someone else is doing it. Hey, chutzpah, I thought it was my turn. What about him? What about me? A person should try to be mavata. A person should try to not get angry, because all of these are the real simonim that can affect a person's whole year. A person should be so careful. The Briskerov was makpid on Rosh Hashana to say Tehillim. He constantly said Tehillim, and they said, Briskerov, maybe you want to learn something? Maybe learn a shtickle briskerov, learn a bisalomdus, Tehillim, come on, it's for the kids, what are you doing? He said, no, every moment of Rosh Hashanah is so precious. When you're learning, sometimes you stop for a moment, sometimes you get distracted. Tehillim, you just keep going. He didn't want to waste one precious second of Rosh Hashanah. The Sfarim HaKadoshim bring down that every moment of Rosh Hashanah is equal to many days during the year. And sometimes things happen to us during the year, we don't know why, we don't understand what's pshat, we don't understand it all came from Rosh Hashanah. Simon and Milsi, we pass on like a baya hovis your base, which means that the Maisa, we have to be very careful how we act, how we're noig, and what we think about and what we do on the day of Rosh Hashanah. We should be zoicha be'ez Hashem, Rosh Hashanah boilin and tova, to be yoyt to the simonim and to taka do all the right things that be'ez Hashem the Rabbeinu Shalom will give us. Chsim and Siva Tova, Git Geben Shom.